Welcome back to 30th Mirror, and thanks for watching. For those who are new to the channel or the subject matter, star forts are better known as bastion forts. They are forts built with points or triangular edges that we are told allowed for better defense against attackers due to line of sight. However, when you examine the official history of these forts, the majority of them either never saw battle or, more commonly, were so indefensible that it was impossible to hold and would often change hands several times. If these forts were so ineffective, why would anyone put that amount of effort into something that has been repeatedly proven unsuccessful? In the Star Fort series, we are researching them one by one to see if we can glean some truth. In this episode, we will be examining the construction of the Gdansk Star Fort complex with simple observations through Google Earth. I will show you some of the similarities to the many mounds or step pyramids found around the world, as well as some evidence that would suggest we are being shown false maps of what Gdansk used to look like. We will start off with the most southern structure called Shen Yeti, or Earthwork Jesuit. Once again, we have a fort where the original build date is unknown. As you can see, this is not a traditional star fort with triangular walls. However, there are a lot of similarities to traditional star forts in its construction and history. Often these small forts are placed near large star forts, sometimes even surrounding them, as in the case of Kaliningrad in Russia and Antwerp in Belgium. All the sources I found claim that in the early to mid-1800s, a people known as the Prussians tried to upgrade an already existing structure by adding metal and concrete to reinforce ceilings and walls. Later in time, others would also try to do the same thing. Though looking quite finished, and with all the additional upgrades, we are told that this fort was never finished due to the advent of gunpowder in weaponry, and thus this defensive fortification no longer had combat value. When looking at these Google Street View images, it looks like the opposite is true, that this structure was complete and has since taken damage, been abandoned, and left to the elements. In fact, the little use that it did see was mainly as a storage facility. So we are to believe with all the work that went into this structure, this building was rarely used and eventually abandoned, much like many of the ancient sites around the world. The being abandoned part is clear, as the fort has become wildly overgrown. It wasn't even until recently in 1968 that the site was recognized as a historical monument. Working our way further north, we come to Matwava Channel. We are told it is all that remains of a double moat and bastion structure that completely surrounded Gdansk in the past, but has since been built over to accommodate for the growth and expansion of the city. Each of the bastions have names, of which I cannot find their origins. The names are Krulik, Misht, Viskok, Vilk, Jubre, and St. Gertrude's. When analyzing the area on Google Earth, I noticed that the two most western bastions have what appear to be rather large step pyramids or mounds on them, which look very similar to the native mounds and step pyramids found in North America. If this is part of the defensive structure, why is it only on these two bastions? You can even see through Google Street View that these mounds are quite high. And the mound on St. Gertrude even has an entrance that is closed off. I do not believe a double moat ever surrounded Gdansk as some of the old maps suggest. Here's why. Further west, where the star fort shape continues, the ground elevation rises even higher than the mounds, creating an escarpment. If the moats were removed for the expansion of the city as is claimed, then how did they raise the ground and create an escarpment, and why would they then rebuild the star fortifications on top? Here you can see in these aerial photos from 1943 that the traditional star fort shapes are created on top of the escarpment with earthworks and trees. I think it's important to note that there are indeed places where star fort structures and their moats are being dismantled and built over. For example, here's Bluetown in Sheerness, United Kingdom. As you can see from these pictures, there was a star fort here that has been removed by filling in the moat. These pictures are from December 1940, and even in 1960s you can see the fortifications are still there. By 1990, however, all that remains is a single point that only hints at what was there. Look closely and you can see there is no elevation that has been added. I noticed something very strange here. Looking closely through Google Street View, you can see that there is a shrine to the Virgin Mary built into one of the bastions. It is gated off and the stones used in the shrine appear to be very old. Off in the distance, behind the church that is next to the shrine, you can see another large mound with a very old stone staircase leading to the top. With that in mind, look at the fortifications that have supposedly been rebuilt on top of the escarpment that was apparently built to replace the double moat. I really don't believe they would have filled in the moat, created an escarpment, and rebuilt the fortifications on top. It doesn't really make any sense. The forest to the northeast of the main structure is also full of mystery and strange land formations. There is a clearing near the edge that looks as if there once was a star earthwork or structure. Even more intriguing is that the step pyramids or mounds continue throughout the forest, and one of them is even used as theater seating. Last but not least is the northern Gdansk star fort, Vistula Fortress, or Vistula Fortress. This is easily one of the most impressive structures of Gdansk when viewed from above, and is by far one of the most mysterious. The fort's original build date is unknown. The first record of a structure being at the site of the Vistula Fortress is in the late 1200s or early 1300s, when a wooden watchtower was built by the Teutonic Knights, one of the many mysterious order of knights, something we will go deeper into in another episode. It is unknown to what capacity or size the structure actually took at that point, but it is understood that there was already something there when the knights built their tower. The tower is one of the strangest parts of this structure. We are told in the 1400s the tower was destroyed and rebuilt out of stone. What many sources fail to mention is one of the most interesting things. There was no entrance. An entrance to the tower was not built until the 17th century, nearly 300 years later. To this date, the original entrance to the tower, if one ever existed, has not been found. As of December 5, 2018, a research team from Gdansk University of Technology is working with the permissions of the Municipal Office of the Conservator of Monuments to study this fortress. One of their goals is to find the elusive entrance to the tower. The reason this research team is studying the fort is much like many of the ancient structures around the world. There are no records of how this amazing construction took place. Fortunately for us, some knowledge survives in the form of legend, myth, and folklore. Which brings us to my favorite strange legend about this fort. This fort, which has stood here for at least 500 years and probably much more, was built on a foundation of wooden crates and rubble that gathered over time as people who lived nearby threw their refuse in the river. That concludes the observational episode of the Gdansk Star Fort Complex. Please join us in another episode when we explore the amazing history behind this beautiful city. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button to be alerted on our next video. Your support will help us to continue to make videos and delve deeper into the mysterious world around us.